All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining me today. I'll try and make this short and sweet. 2024 in review. What a bizarre year we had. What a challenging year we had. Such extremes. Coming out of, by the end of the year, at our field day, it was kind of funny because people were like, well, what's going on down the road? You know, why wasn't that field planted? Because at the end of the year, you had Prevent Plant next to phenomenal looking fields, next to looking fields, and everything in between. It was just a year of this field hadn't, this field didn't. It just a weird, tough year. And so we came out of 2023, D4 drought, no snow. Heading into 24, we got wet, which was great because you're like, we can handle all this rain. Little did you know that Mother Nature was going to call your bluff. So the first 6 inches that came, you're like, sweet. Kind of refilled some of our profile. Didn't give us a real great recharge by any means, but it gave us something to work with. And so early May was actually really nice planting conditions. That first 6-7 inches that fell barely took us out of drought status. And so on the soybean side of things, you had the food grade beans got put in on time, and they got up and going, and then the big rains came. We just had to cultivate. That field got cultivated 3 times, foliar fed a couple times, and a couple passes of herbicide, and it was phenomenal. As far as a non-GMO soybean field goes, on a year like this where you couldn't do timely sprayings, playing catch up in non-GMO beans is kind of painful. My goal would have been to be more preemptive with the residual chemicals and use less knockdown chemicals in there, but the field worked out very well considering the year. So you're almost 40 bushel, and they were, clean as far as non-GMO beans go. In fact, they went into the fall cleaner than my regular soybeans. We didn't have a killing frost till late, so that last cultivation pass, I think, on the non-GMO beans really helped it along. And so that field was done right. Everything worked out how it should. The other fields, we got into then the wet season, so now you're trying to plant in between rains, and that just doesn't work. You can't plant today, get 4 inches tomorrow, another 1 inch and 2 inch over the next several days behind that. It just does not work. That little seed trench just fills up with water, and any little dip in the field and you're done. It just sucked. But we had some fields, no-till, used a mulch master on some, used a strip till on some. Come fall time, some of the fields had a great stand, and then you're combining it, and you're like, I got 40 bushels in front of me, but I'm only getting 20 bushels in the tank. And that was pretty common in the area. Other fields, you planted a 90, you combined a 60, you had drowned out and drought stress at the same time. The beans, so when the rains finally shut off at the end of June, we had 85 days of dry, other than a couple, literally just a few little rains in there. And that's very difficult on soybeans. That's very challenging on soybeans. And so it was, I think the most disappointing is where you had, good looking fields. You're out there, you're like, this is a normal looking stand, but the drought was just too much on the beans and too much delay from coming out of that rain to when the beans really got to get going. They just couldn't really recover, and then it turns dry. Just not good on the beans. On the corn side, best corn of my, worst beans of my life, best corn of my life. The 80 across the road where I was doing the source testing and all that stuff, that field went 200. And 80 to go 200 in this area on a good year is something to be very proud of. to do it on a year like this, that is off the charts kind of awesome. The corn, you can see in the early videos, it was how can we help get this crop going. So we cultivated, we foliar fed, a couple dry broadcast feeds with the help of the local mill just to help me get fertilizer done, and then we drone sprayed some of it, a couple cultivation passes to get that soil going, and that corn never stopped. It never stopped. It never looked back. It was full steam ahead. It was freight training. It was culture, and it was phenomenal. If it wasn't for just some bad areas where you had them slow slopes where that water just lingers but eventually gets away, if it wasn't for a few of them areas, I think a lot of that corn in West Rock would have been, 180 bushel, pretty solid, pretty easy. Still to have 150 or 140, whatever finally came out over there, not bad. That is pretty good corn on a year like this. So for sure, this year for 25, I'm doing that corn program again. A few just minor tweaks and improvements, things we couldn't do because of weather conditions this year, and we hope that 25 is a little better for us. But even if not, we know we can manage through bad weather. There is a product we're going to add. There's an AMF, Sound Agriculture has a new product for us to try in 25, and I think that's going to be a game changer. That is going to be a real game changer for us here. But the corn, I got nothing to complain about. It was green and growing right to fall. It dried itself down. It went into killing frost green, and that's not very common. Everything just went right with the corn. You can still see a lot of top end was taken off with the drought, but zero complaints here. Zero complaints. That was phenomenal. And it was really cool because we actually had the best corn crop ever or in a long time, and we didn't have much fertilizer on that crop other than a little extra nitrogen. We ended up at 1-to-1 on nitrogen, or 1.1 to 1 on nitrogen, but as far as P and K and all that other stuff, compared to crop removal rates, we weren't even close. Weren't even close to what the local retailers would advise you to put on that corn crop. But we'll talk about that later in videos coming up. But hey, there it is in a nutshell, guys. Cattle and hay, always a success. Doesn't matter, good years, bad years. Cattle and hay, always a success here. There's never any complaints. You got some death loss, that's normal. I'm not going to complain about losing a couple calves. Like that happens all the time. Some years better than others, but the cows and hay is always a success. But all right, I'll leave you at that. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.